Hello and a very warm welcome to this training session brought to you in partnership with the Google News Initiative, Digital Publishing Success. Our key topic today is part of this comprehensive look at our business strategy when it comes to reader revenue. That's our topic, as you can see there on the screen. Optimize your user funnel. As we move down this road, this difficult, challenging road from traditional publishing to what we can offer online in terms of our strategies, making money, of course, revenue, very important, but just in terms of quality as well when it comes to journalism. And gosh, fast changing, radically fast changing times we're living in. My name is Seamus. I'm your moderator today, your trainer. I'm an independent journalist, also multimedia trainer, and I'm also joined today by Louise in the chat, friendly Louise, who's there to welcome you. Do reach out to Louise. If you can see the chat there, do introduce yourselves. Tell us who you are, where you're from, maybe the company you're working for, maybe your own company, maybe it's a project that you're about to launch. Share those details with us. It's always great for us to know who we're talking to for these training sessions. So as I say, Louise in the chat, I'm Seamus. We also have Daryl also with us today as our technical assistant, our broadcast manager. So if there are any issues, he can also sort out any issues for us today. So optimize your user funnel. That is our topic today. At the very beginning of these courses, we do like to take a bird's eye view at what we're looking at here and the lesson plan, as you can see there on the screen, becoming a successful digital publisher. This bird's eye view there. You can see we're in the fifth column, reader revenue. So down with optimize your user funnel. Just before this lesson, we had reader revenue models. So the options, the paywall options, communicating your why. Maybe you took part in one of those lessons. Also assessing the opportunity. That was another one that came before this lesson. And after this lesson, in about an hour's time, in fact, just straight after this lesson, we're going to look at alternative income streams. So the opportunities, generating the revenue flow, planning for the future. And as you can see there, it's part of this whole suite of lessons as part of this Google News Initiative project. We're looking at business strategy, audience development, data management, advertising revenue as well. So lots of important topics that we're taking a look at. We also, at the very beginning, like to point this out, making sure that we're getting the most out of the training. So we do want to help you with a whole variety of options. We're going to put those before you, what's available to you. But it is very important for us to say that, these are just options. As we know, we don't need to say this too much, but, the world of digital publishing online, it's complex. Each and every business has different challenges, a different audience. And we're going to have different resources available to us. So you're best placed to know what's the next step. So today I'm going to show you some case studies, lots of case studies, action plans, further resources. Louise in the chat is going to share some links for you as well. So you have these tools and resources online that you can go to get more information. But as we say, these are just suggestions. And whatever action, whatever next step that you decide to take, that's really going to be different based on your needs, your experience, and your aims. So we do like to point that out right up front. So why does all of this matter? Why is it important when we're talking about reader revenue, the funnel? So making the decision to offer the strategy of generating reader revenue, this is just the beginning of a whole process. It can be complicated. But it's good to get our heads around this, to seek out the expertise or the resources. And we're going to look at some of these online tools available to us. It is tricky. It's not an easy one. This could be the start of the process for you. Maybe you're a little bit further down the road. Things are going to resonate more with you. But even if you're just starting out, it's going to plant these seeds of reflection, if you like. To point you in some of the right directions. So maybe you've already come quite a way, down the road, down this road towards looking at how we can generate revenue from the readers. Maybe you already understand your reader. how you can be relevant to your audience. Maybe you've already started to think about this, even if you have a project you want to launch. Maybe in terms of the technical aspect, you've already started thinking about, your tech stack, as we call it. Maybe you've already started to build up this reader base. And so maybe now it's the right time for some of you to start looking at some of the reader revenue options. And this is going to be separate to advertising, of course, separate to subscriptions. This is really getting this extra revenue from the reader. So this could be a new chapter. Maybe you looked at some of these other lessons as well we've done, maximizing the returns when it comes to this whole crucial topic of optimizing the user funnel. So of course, that's where the clients are coming into the top of the funnel, and we're wanting people to convert. We're wanting them to actually sign up with us, and hopefully actually they're going to be being our source of revenue, because most of us, it's a business after all, isn't it? So our focus today, we have 3 areas of focus. Deepen our reader engagement, so the steps that we can take to grow the readership, to increase our reader engagement. Also, we're going to look at the areas that we can improve on, identifying those topics where we can have improvement right across that funnel to make sure that it's working. So we're going to have that conversion rate, a high conversion rate, getting people to sign up, getting people to contribute. And also then this 3rd topic today in this lesson, planning for long-term success. And I think that's crucial as well. So we have ideas, we're starting on this road, just making sure that you have a long-term plan, that that the goals we have at the beginning, we're going to keep those as we explore some of the options, and looking at how we can measure our performance. Are we being successful? Are those decisions we made at the beginning, are they correct? And some of the tactics for success, as you can see there as well. So let's start with this first topic then. Let's jump straight into it. Deepening the reader engagement. And actually, it's worth pointing out on this topic, on this first section, right across the Google News Initiative program, and here we're talking about labs. We actually have lab sessions. So these are expert sessions where we're bringing people in from the area of media, of publishing, of journalism, and looking in these lab sessions at actually what can work. And so this is a real sharing of experience and of case studies. And it's been found, the research after these sessions really finds that, investing and improving that engagement, that crucial engagement with the audience, with the reader, that's really identified as one of the most significant enablers, if you like. That's the word we like to use, an enabler of a successful reader revenue model, as we start to look towards trying to find that. So let's just take a look at this question of measurements, because it's often about data and statistics. It's the thing we have in our hands. It's the concrete thing we have. If we already have an online presence, that data, those statistics are available to us. And we talk about these key metrics. So what's crucial to us when we're measuring reader engagement? I think it's good to get our heads around this at the very beginning before we start looking at some of the complex elements of this. So the average visits per user, of course, referring to the number of times right across a given time period. That can change. We can choose that daily, weekly, monthly, etc. So it's the user visits to our sites. Again, very important. They're very strong correlation with this, and about whether people are going to actually be willing to subscribe afterwards. And then, of course, you can see there the average page views per user, so the number of pages that the user's reading per visit. If we can improve on that, we also say that there's a stronger likelihood that we're going to have subscriptions, contributions. People are going to be answering our calls to action. So the average page speed. Some people would say that needs to go right at the top. Number 1, the speed. How quickly is the website loading? That's a critical metric for me, for lots of news organizations, for lots of publishers, when it comes to their reader revenue models. Strong correlation, as we say, in fact, with all of these when it comes to that engagement. We can also talk about the newsletter opt-in rate. If we have a newsletter, we have some kind of interaction, some kind of way of communicating with the reader. How many people are actually signing up for that interaction? We talk there about a newsletter, but it may be something else, signing up for some kind of event that you're proposing, just to get that engagement, that physical, direct dialogue going with the reader. And some of the research from those labs that I was talking about show that, newsletter subscribers, actually they're 10 times more likely to convert to subscriptions than just anonymous visitors, those who are coming and they're not signing up for anything. And then the last on the list there, the percentage of known readers. So that's the unique visitors, the total unique visitors is actually a percentage of the known visitors as a percentage when we compare that with the total unique visitors. And so that's a great insight there as well. So what does this look like if we're wanting to have success? So what does good look like, if you like? So we have the benchmarks, and you can see there we have some different sources for this. So different companies there. FT Strategy is just one of those. And we, as you can see there on the screen, so we look at the average visits per user. We have some figures there. This is what the good looks like. So the 1.9 to 2.3 for the average visits per user. For example, if you switch over to the newsletter opt-in rate, 10%. 10%, that would be seen as quite good. So the number of people, the number of visitors who are coming to you in a given time period, actually interacting with you, putting their name on the dotted line, signing up. And as we say that, if they do that, they're more likely to have some kind of follow-up, and they're going to follow you through, come further down the funnel, which of course is the goal that we're wanting to see. So lots of figures there. We're not going to, zoom in on those too much at this point, but just to let you know, there are those benchmarks. We are looking for success, and these metrics are crucial because we want to make sure that we're within these parameters. So when it comes to improving reader engagement, we have certain tactics that we're going to use to try to improve that engagement. So as we can see there, newsletter optimization would be one thing. Web push notifications, crucial for lots of organizations. I mean, we use this all the time now in the media. As a publisher, you probably maybe are already aware of this. So the push alert, so going out to somebody's browser. So even if they're not logged in, even if they're not visiting your website, they've given you agreement that when you have a particular alert, that's going to be sent out to their browser in real time. Great for breaking news, for example, but also for engaging with the reader. They feel that real connection pops up in their browser on their screen. This can be great. So the recirculation strategy, so digging down deeper, in depth, that can also be crucial. As we say there, the speed, not just for the website, but also for our mobile devices. Are we matching up in terms of the speed? Video engagement, that's crucial. We can see we have a lot of experience now, a lot of research saying that websites that have videos, we're going to have a lot more engagement. Is this going to be something that's going to be key to get people to engage with you further? And then, as you say, mobile optimization to make sure that we're not just duplicating word for word what is on the website, and seeing whether that works on the mobile device as well. So newsletter optimization, let's focus in on just some of these points. These are just a few examples, a couple of ways that we can improve the performance when it comes to the newsletter opt-in rate. We have some best practices for this, for improving the overall performance of this. Improving the visibility for the call to action when it comes to this. So when we're wanting people to actually sign up for those newsletters, so where is that placed on your website? Just one tip, using different colors, making sure that, for the background, that it really stands out, that sign up box, that we know what it's all about, that it's clear, that there are good colors, good contrast. Maybe even it's actually just a matter of putting call to action, making sure that we have something written down that's actually very obvious. So focusing on the inline, for the desktop, some of these anchored formats for mobile as well. So reducing the number of fields, for example, that, making sure that people are not having to fill in too many boxes, the automated fill-ins as well, so autofill for the email field, etc. That can be very useful as well to make sure that people are not spending too long on that it's not so complicated. The one-click sign-up, the one-stop shop, the sign-up box, easily discoverable. We should be able to see that straight away, not just on your homepage, but also, perhaps maybe within articles, at the foot of articles, and making sure that it's above the fold, so people are not having to scroll too much to discover your call to action buttons or what you're using to get people to sign up. And so a lot of these tips actually, they're contained in our playbook. And Louise, hopefully in the chat, will be able to give you some links to some of this. So we actually have a playbook that you can actually take a look at as part of the news initiative with google.com. Louise will share that in the chat with you. Very useful. And in fact, a lot of what we're going to talk about today, a lot of this, you're going to want to get the links in the chat to go and actually explore this yourself, because obviously in this lesson, we can't go through everything, but Louise can hopefully share some of that. And it's really, it's called a playbook. So I was actually trying to play around with a lot of this. I'm going to hopefully, inspire you to want to seek out this information to explore this. But it's a playbook. So do go and use that as a playbook. See if you can spend a couple of hours on that, looking through. It's true that we can't go through everything when it comes to metrics and things, but we can hopefully inspire you to want to reach out to get more information. Let's just take a look at a case study, because I think looking at examples when it comes to this is always crucial, because it's seeing what's working for people who are already doing this. So publishers and media where it's working well. So this is Gazeta Wyborska. I'm sorry for the pronunciation, a bit like my name's Seamus. I get called Seamus all the time, but Poland. Really they noticed that it was non-subscribers signing up for a newsletter that actually led to this 34% increase in the page views. And actually those people were spending 37% more days in a month on the website. So when they brought this in, this is, compared to the month before. So before signing up, these people are actually, spending more time when it comes to days in the month, and it's actually overall leading to this increase in the page views. So we'll look at that. We'll look more at this in a moment. We use these words now, recency and frequency when it comes to this. So something, somebody who's recently on your website, and how frequent are they there? So some of these parameters we'll take a look at as well. Another example here would be the registration wall. So this is another way to drive newsletter signups, is actually setting up this registration wall. An effective way, many people would say, trying to capture those crucial emails, making sure that people are voluntarily handing over some of this information so we can have this dialogue, this interaction with them. Serving the readers with these opportunities to subscribe or to contribute. And actually in those GNI labs, these Google News Initiative labs we talked about, again, a lot of people saying that, this high correlation between the registered user and the frequency of the visits afterwards. And also, a lot of people testifying to the fact that, the introduction of this registration wall, not really having an impact, a negative impact in terms of the traffic. So this could be something that you could look at as well. Another case study here. This is Denic N. This was a registration tactic employed by this. This was part of the GNI European Subscription Lab. And they were actually encouraging what we call the superfan to recommend the newspaper to their friends. So that's a great concept, having a superfan. So somebody who's really engaged, somebody you can rely on to spread the word. So it's not just the call to action button, but you're actually getting the superfan to do this work for you. And and we can actually, even in some ways, in a lot of cases, we actually try to compensate the superfan with a badge. I know that on some of the websites that I work on, we actually hand out badges, virtual badges that people can put on their websites. They can be proud to say, I'm a super fan of a certain newspaper, for example. So it's that sense of community as well, this whole reaching out. So in total, as you can see there, the subscribers sharing 250,000 links more than with friends. And as you can see there, this was fantastic, phenomenal. This 70% increase in the number of readers who were actually registering in the end. So that was crucial. Web push notifications, we talked about that. So these targeted web push notifications, the 25% click-through rate going up, the opt-in rate between 5%, 15%. So this is the News Consumer Insights team found this. So an increase, 25%. I mean, that's phenomenal as well for web push notifications. It can be a powerful tool, and lots of media have noticed that, driving readers who are perhaps using mobile devices, for example, to go back to the website and increasing those visits. Some of the best practices for that: maximizing the chances of getting readers to subscribe, because of course that's the aim through web push notifications. It's actually building your own or working with a third party. So we can have native web push alerts, but we can't really transform those. We can't tailor those to our own needs. So perhaps it's using the custom push alerts, the custom prompts. So we can play with that as well, and this can perhaps lead to higher rates of engagement when we're actually able to customize those push alerts as well. And it's not just the native options that are open to some of us through some of these apps and what have you. The recirculation strategy, that's something else that's very important. This can be a great way to make sure that your readers are not just reading one article, but we're actually leading them down a path of recirculation. And that's great for us also to make the most of what we're actually looking at in terms of our content. And of course, what that's going to do is it's going to increase the visits, isn't it? So we have the strategy of highlighting the extra content that could be available. So it's all about more engagement. It's more word of mouth as well. It shows that we're comprehensively covering issues, news stories, etc. Whatever content you're focused on. So some of the best practices for this, in terms of getting people to increase those visits, this should be easy to see on a website. So when there is recirculation, we should be doing this proudly, and it shouldn't just be a little something in italics and small print at the very end of the article. We should be proud of them and say, if you've enjoyed this article, go and discover this. There's a video here. We have a longer interview there. So it's that whole, I always, use the analogy that we've had a meal. We haven't finished it completely, so we put half of it in the fridge. We reheat some of it. We give some of it to a neighbor. We invite a friend around the next day for lunch, and we eat the leftovers. It's that recirculation. It's the same with the story. And it's actually making the most of our resources as well. So we're not just doing one article, spending money on that, but we're actually getting, value for the money, more for the buck, if you like, as I say in America. So just to make sure that, we're leading people through the different possibilities when it comes to what we can read. Is actually looking at the ranking of the articles. So making sure that you're making available the articles that have been more successful. So test the ranking, giving the reader the information so that, it's easier to go to the articles. And actually, if there's a limit on the number of articles they can read, for example, we're going to avoid readers having to make this decision, which can be very tiring for somebody to work out, well, I've only got 3 reads. What am I going to read? So we're making that easier for people as well. Making sure that your header is sticky. That's interesting as well, to make sure that the logo is really giving us a great opportunity for these readers to visit the homepage. And this is especially true for mobile users. So making sure that, that we keep seeing where we're at. So we're not scrolling and, the header's disappearing. So using, the pin concept. So pinning things to the top, making sure that things are stuck in the right place, and that it's, crucial for the follow-up phases, that as we talk about this pathway that people are on. And the advanced recirculation formats, like using an anchor. This can be great on the mobile phone. So if you are actually optimizing a website for the mobile, you're going to insert those anchors to make sure that they stay in the right place. This is going to be especially true if there's, articles that are very long, for example, and where there's lots and lots of scrolling. So, do think about that. Think of the ship. You've got to have an anchor to make sure that we always see the ship. if we leave the boat, we know where it is, we can go and find it again. Crucial. Let's take a look at another case study. Always good to do that. This is Portali Bombini, Italy, of course, we can tell by the name. They improve the user engagement, loyalty, if you like, promoting relevant content. So this is a good example of the recirculation. Look at those figures there. A 7% increase in overall sessions, but a 75% increase in pages per session. So that's a very good result for Portali Bambini. Promoting relevant content. So this is actually knowing the reader as well. Do you know the people who are looking at your websites? And we're only really going to have that with interaction. Statistics will tell us so much, but if we're not having the interaction, that sense of community, if we don't understand why people are following us, why are they signed up for the newsletter, it's going to be difficult to then promote the relevant content afterwards and say, hey, well, you may be interested in this. So that's really the on-site recirculation that we're looking at. And it looks like Portali Bambini has struck a good formula there. It could be useful for you. Mobile speed. We see the little circle spinning there on the screen. That's what we don't want. How long is it taking for your website to load, not just on a browser, on a PC, but also on the mobile phone, on the mobile pages? So we know that readers, less likely to be patient, waiting for a site to load. I think, some of the research we've seen there, 50% of readers are going to leave a page if it takes more than 3 seconds. I mean, that's, it's scary, isn't it? 3 seconds and we're gone. If it's taking more than 3 seconds, if we keep seeing that little circle moving around, we're gone. We're not staying on the page. It's terrible, but it's true. And it's a ranking factor when it comes to mobile searches as well. So that can be that can potentially have an impact as well when it comes to the search rankings, which can be crucial for reader engagement afterwards as well. So some of the best practices for that. One of the options that sometimes is being suggested, especially on some of these Google courses, it's using Lighthouse, Google Lighthouse, that can help you to determine what actually is taking so long to download or to load up on your site. How can you optimize your site to make sure that it's only the crucial stuff that actually is uploading first? Evaluate, for example, all of the JavaScript tags, the CSS, for example, that's being used, making sure that you're removing anything that's absolutely not necessary. So, and actually, reviewing all of this on a weekly basis, on a monthly basis. It's interesting how some of these tags and some of the computer language, they can hold us up, and this can change from week to week. We add something, we don't realize that we're actually making everything so much more cumbersome. So evaluating what's necessary. Images, absolutely crucial. Optimize those images. Use JPEG 2000, XR, WebP, for example, just some of them. Ensuring that the images are not too big. I think we talk about 100 KB, but some developers say that we should be using images. Most of them should be within about 50 KB. So it's interesting. Are you also making sure that you have lazy loading? Asynchronous, lazy loading. So we're only really uploading what we're seeing as we scroll. So everything that we're yet to come to, it's not loading first. So this concept of lazy loading. So you're doing that. So for example, the photographs that I have further down that people haven't yet scrolled to, making sure that those are not loading up in a high resolution. They're only the ones we're seeing on the screen. So some of the options there that we should be looking at. Video engagement, this is useful as well, the tactics there, and and some of this I'll repeat as well. Louise in the chat will be sharing some of these links with you. You can go and have a look at this. So a lot of this is covered in the playbook that you can see there on the screen. The source for all of this, newsinitiative.withgoogle.com. I've been there, looked through. There's so much useful information, and as I say, a lot of this is coming from the expertise in the industry, in the sector. A lot of this from A/B testing, for example. A lot of companies, media, executives and experts have actually been A/B testing a lot of this. So a lot of the useful information, a lot of the research could be very useful for you as well. So the video engagement, this is something that's really standing out at the moment. So studies are suggesting that users are spending, almost 90% more time on a website when there's video. So if you're not including video, maybe this could be something that you could look at. And of course, we want to make sure that it's good video, that it's optimized, that the presence is logical, that it's adding something, of course, that it's fitting in with your overall offer, with your overall content offer. But optimization, very important. Making sure, just for example, that there is a very useful player, that the presence of the video player is easy, that we're not asking people to change resolutions, to change parameters, for example, to make sure that it's the primary focus, that it's a central focus when we're looking at a website, that it's not hidden away, we have to scroll, etc. Optimizing the autoplay setup, for example. We're going to annoy people with that. Making sure that this is part of the recirculation, so getting traffic from an article to a video, or vice versa, from a video to an article. That's also very useful as well. So, and you'll see a lot of these tips as well on that if you look at the playbook, which Louise will have put into the chat. Don't hesitate if you have any questions or any feedback or any comments on a lot of this. Don't hesitate to put it into the chat. It's always very useful to get your feedback on some of this, if this is resonating with you, if it's totally new. Interesting to hear your point of view. Improving the performance of your mobile landing page. We've already talked about that, so it's very important, the mobile optimization. So making sure that, and actually a lot of developers say that, you're making your website, don't forget that you can go in and you can tweak things for the mobile. Lots of options. We can actually drop content. We can simplify things. We can change the size of the font, etc. When it comes to the mobile, we don't have to totally mirror what is happening on the website. So just because the desktop landing page can be viewed on a mobile device doesn't mean that you shouldn't design specialized pages, especially for the mobile. Don't forget, 0 to 8 seconds. We want to have something that's compelling when it comes to the landing page. So yeah, and we said 3 seconds before, but 8 seconds when it comes to content, to deciding whether we want to read an article when it comes to news, for example. So tracking our performance, identifying the improvements across that funnel that we talked about, that's going to be crucial. And it's really actually trying to understand, what does success look like? Because we have lots of options, but actually what are some of the metrics? Where can we look? What's the inspiration to see, well, that's what I want to aim for when it comes to trying to improve? So let's just walk through some of this process of measuring. So the core metrics, converting the readership, of course, we're talking about this reader revenue. So making sure that readers are becoming subscribers, that they're becoming contributors, more so in this case when it comes to reader revenue. So we're going to be talking about the conversion rate. We're going to be talking about the meter stop rate. If you haven't heard of this, so this is the percentage of unique users who are hitting the paywall. And this is compared versus with the total unique users. Then we have the paid stop conversion rate. Just useful to explain this, because if these are terms that you haven't come across before. So this is unique users who subscribe versus the unique users hitting the paywall as well. Again, some of this a little bit tricky. You can look at the playbook, get your head around this, and we'll go into more detail, for example, about the meter stop rate in just a moment. But the average revenue per user, I think that's understandable for most of us. Is actually what the average user is paying in terms of contributions or subscriptions. And then some of the other metrics, the pay flow efficiency. So how are people actually paying us? Do we have an efficient process? Are they doing it online? Are they having to go somewhere else? And also the print to digital activation rate. So how many people are moving? So if we have traditional publishing, how many people are actually moving from traditional print to our digital offer as well? So that's very crucial. Again, a lot of these figures, just to give you some examples, there are benchmarks, there are parameters for this. We have, this is what the good looks like. So just take a look at some of these things that perhaps you do have your head around. So For example, the average revenue per user, there we can see for developed markets. So for subscriptions, we would say that it's good if you're getting between 10 and 15 US dollars. And in terms of contributions, if you're getting between $9 and $15, that's actually seen as quite good. And we can look at, the percentage of the known readers, so the people we know about, not just those who are anonymous. If it's 5% plus, that's seen as quite good. And then this will be different, of course, for emerging markets. So we would talk about $5 to $7, $3 to $5 for contributions. So just some of those figures there, just to let you know that you can find those in the playbook, which we will have shared with you. So these are just some of the tactics that we could look at if we wanted to improve on things. So the meter stop rate. So the meter stop rate, of course, don't forget, that's unique visitors hitting a paywall versus the total number of our unique users. So we would maybe set up a tighter paywall. We're going to run meter experiments to better understand what are some of the trade-offs people are making when it comes to, am I going to read an article? Is it better to read an advert, for example? So improving the average reader revenue. So we can talk about dynamic pricing. So making sure that there are some choices involved, that people can pay what they want. Maybe you can give the option, not just set prices, but make this dynamic so people are interacting with us as well. So the tech stack as well, that's another option there. So and it sounds simple, doesn't it? Get your tech stack sorted, but it's actually building up the processes, making sure that you have the software, that there's a sense of realism in this, that you're actually making choices that are actually achievable, and we're not just saying, yeah, I'm going to do this and this and this, and then we don't have the technical support to back that up. Just focusing in now just quickly on the meter stop rate. So this is the metric indicating the percentage of the unique users hitting the subscription paywall. The meter stop rate equals the unique users hitting the paywall in a month, actually divided by the total monthly active users. Difficult to get our heads around. You can go to the playbook to get more on this. But it's true that this really will only be relevant for news organizations with a subscription model. That's probably worth pointing out. And while we've noted this benchmark of 7.6%, we saw that just earlier, publishers with a hard paywall or a significant amount of premium content, they're likely to see significantly higher meter stop rates. So this is something to get our head around. It's something that we can look at in the playbook. If you're further down the road on this, take a look at some of the tips, some of the tactics that we can use when it comes to a tighter paywall, for example. So tests really are suggesting that most publishers could benefit from setting up a tighter paywall, also experimenting with things, fine-tuning, so running these A/B tests, and also this thing about having a dynamic paywall. So it's going to change depending on the reader's level of activity. For example, we'll let people do things if they're really engaged with us, and for those who are not so engaged with us, it'll be a different approach, and we call this the dynamic paywall. So it's not just one rule for all. We're making sure that we're actually dividing this up. So as I say, if somebody's engaged, we're going to perhaps allow things that we wouldn't for someone who's not so engaged. So improving the average reader revenue. So some of these tactics, as we say, implementing the dynamic pricing based on the engagement, running the pricing tests, so the A/B tests. These can help improve the average reader revenue per user. We can also talk about implementing tiered pricing. This can be very interesting as well across both subscription and contribution models. So news organizations can implement this, tiered pricing models, different categories, if you like, of their subscriptions and contribution programs. So that's something to look at as well. More on that in the playbook. Let's just take a look at another case study. This is Reporter magazine. This is in the Czech Republic, and they looked at their subscription model. They actually set this up. It was a subscription deal for during COVID-19. So the stay-at-home readers. They actually also ran a crowdfunding campaign, funnily enough, trying to soften the blow, the economic blow, when it came to the pandemic. So they launched this online subscription offer. I was going to say $1, but it's actually about 0.04 euros, about $0.04 when we look at the equivalent of one in the local currency. And so there, readers were given unlimited online access for this nominal amount. So it was just one in the local currency for all stories actually published, since 2014. So the other thing that we wanted to look at here, and this was also investing in the tech stack. So it's not just giving the special deals, but it's actually improving our performance when it comes to our tech stack. So looking at the metrics when it comes to that. So you can see there, you'll find this in the playbook as well. This is just to give you an example. We won't go through all of this, but you can see that we're talking about the process. Why is it important? What are some of the solutions available? And you can see there some of the options, some of the names of the tools available to you. So of course, the list here below, it's not complete in no terms. Really some of the solutions for each area, but these are some of the ones identified, used by publishers across the GNI program, so the Google News Initiative. So really identifying some of these processes and the solutions that were useful. Again, Louise will put the link for this into the chat, so you can go through this and really see what's relevant for you. So this, raises the question, doesn't it? And there's a lot to get in here, but it's, how can you improve things at your organization or for your project if you're just starting out, across the funnel? And one of the activities that you can look at as well, and we'll put this link into the chat as well. This is called the user funnel diagnostic. So how we're performing across key metrics. So it's actually putting in your data, and actually tracking your organization's performance, identifying these key areas where we can improve, as we can see there on the list. So you can put in the data, things like average visits per user, and for the conversion metrics, for example, you can put in some of that data there. The retention metrics as well. So just making sure that we can have a real view of what's going on. So planning for long-term success, just looking towards the future now as we come to the end of this lesson. So it's really making sure that, we understand that for many publishers, the turning point perhaps on their reader revenue journey actually was when the organization's leadership actually set up an easily identifiable, ambitious, if you like. They really took a bold decision when it came to the long-term reader revenue goal. Really a vision, if you like, that's going to energize, it's going to inspire everybody involved in that. So right from commercial people to the journalists to the tech people as well. We talked there about the tech stack being very important. Just to make sure that everybody understands. We often talk about the Northern Star, for example, make sure that everybody's on board with that. So looking at this goal. So the importance of that, we'll just go through this quickly. There'll be more on this in the playbook as well. So answering the following questions 3 years from now. So imagining these questions: how much revenue do I want to drive to make through reader revenue? How many subscribers? What's the goal when it comes to subscribers and contributors? And what's the percentage of the overall revenue? You'll see there in the playbook when you go there for further information on this. I talked there about the Northern Star, the North Star, sometimes people call it. This is an exercise where you can actually put this down in real terms. So put those real goals in there, long-term goals, and setting an aspirational goal, if you like. So putting those figures in there, asking these key questions, as you can see there, these key categories as well. And confirming those target metrics, that's going to help you achieve your reader revenue goal as well. So identifying those metrics that can help you, your organization. So it's very tailor-made. What's going to be key for you? It's a difficult process. It's a tricky process. No one said it was going to be easy. There are a couple of case studies, and actually some organizations like the Financial Times, for example, they actually developed a metric of their own. It's called the RFV. And this is where we talked earlier about recency. So when did the person last visit? When did that reader last visit? The frequency, how often did they come? And the volume, how many articles did they actually read? So that's just, a metric, for example, that the Financial Times brought into this. So as we can see there, some of these tactics for achieving this. Assessing the technology for your tactics, making sure that that's in tandem. The investments that you might need, looking at things that are not yet proven, so things that you need to test and you need to experiment with as well. Don't know if there are any questions. We've covered a lot, haven't we? And actually, I see there actually is a question from Flo on what metrics would you recommend to create and promote relevant content? Great question, Flo, and that's really going to depend on the kind of organization that we have when it comes to this. And I think that's where the playbook is going to come into this. But I think when it comes to creating and promoting content, it's going to be, for me, it would be the page views and how long people are staying. So are people hanging around long enough to actually see some of the promotional material? And I think if that's what I understand you're talking about, so it's some of the call to action buttons, it's some of the direct messages we're trying to get across on the page. So and I think it's also the position. So it's the position on the website. Where is all this happening? If we're wanting to promote the content. It is tricky, it's complicated. There's no easy answer. This is a work in progress for lots of organizations, and that's why it's very useful to take part in those lab sessions, take part in deep dives, go along to the playbook and see if you can find some of these answers. The new EU regulations, also, that was a question there from Flo. Is it something to be opposed or finally a step towards privacy? An interesting question. Of course, we've got to take all of this into account. I was taking part in a round table this morning on this question. Multimedia organization, multi-global, multinational media organization. What a headache having to make sure that we're in compliance with what's happening in Europe, in the US, and Asia, etc. We have to work with it. We don't have a choice. And I think the key with this is actually turning it to our advantage. So, for example, if there are issues of privacy, for example, and actually in the next lesson, we'll look at things like people who are blocking us in terms of adverts. When we have requirements, with the European regulations, actually getting people to voluntarily give us the information. So we're not actually storing information, getting people engaged with us so that they're actually engaged with us and they're actually doing it willingly. We're not actually having to hold information, or we're not having to do things in a way that people are not agreeing, or they haven't given their agreement, or they're not, we're doing it in a transparent way. And so I think some of the regulations, I think it's actually the trick, and a lot of the discussions we're having in the media is actually turning it around, trying to find a way we can work with it that it can be to our advantage. So great questions there. Don't forget, we're going to have a round table link to this. Actually, we can actually talk face to face on some of this with myself, with Louise. So some of these questions are great. We can talk about some of this, some of these issues, because as I said at the beginning, it's complicated. Where do I start? And just to quickly finish the session, and perhaps Louise can put into the chat the fact that we have this round table. I think it is tomorrow, if I'm not mistaken. Louise will clarify that in the chat when we have a roundtable. Do sign up for that. It's in the same place where you signed up for these sessions. And don't forget, we're going to explore further some of these points in the next lesson, which is coming up in about 12 minutes time. We're just slightly over time now, but what I wanted to do was just to make sure that you look at the GNI planning tool. So this is also part of the playbook, so make sure that you take a look at that. And don't forget to, when you're looking at the playbook, take a look at these 3 areas that we looked at: the reader engagement, areas where we can improve, and that long-term success. And if you take a look actually in the playbook, you'll see that it's actually really defined like this, and there's lots of tips, lots of information as well. So we've covered the questions. Don't forget that this is part of a lesson. There's another one coming up in just a moment. Alternative income streams. I'll see you in about 10 minutes for that lesson. You can play back and look at this lesson again as well. Don't forget that we have these round tables we talked about. There's the labs as well that we can talk about, and feedback from you is very important as well. And Louise hopefully would have put into the chat a link for a form where you can give us feedback on some of this as well. So Lots to think about, lots to take on board. If you can take part in our next lesson in just about 10 minutes time, do that, because it's a logical follow-up to all of this. So thank you very much for your attention. Lots to take on board. We totally get it. We totally understand that it's complex, and that's why we have things like the playbook. And actually what we're doing here visually, sometimes it's just planting a seed, starting that process of reflection. So hopefully it's been useful for you. Thanks very much. Thanks for joining us. And I look forward to seeing you again sometime soon, maybe in 10 minutes for the next lesson, if not for another session, maybe for the roundtable as well, the details of which Louise will have put into the chat. So thanks very much and have a great day wherever you are. Thank you.